without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you our speaker for today. Way back, I read the 12 things that he wrote. And kanina I was discussing with my wife, so I really remember this 12 things kasi we will be having that speaker in the office. Sabi niya, yes, correct na yung wrong, no? Yung pagtawid where the right pedestrian lane is, where to throw your garbage correctly, and stuff like that. So it made a mark to me personally, and I think for those who are attending here, had recalled, no, those things, and probably sa younger generation, the younger generation did know more about this as well. So without further ado, our speaker is, in 1999, he and his wife seriously thought about migrating to the US or Canada. And like his two brothers and their families, so nasa abroad yung families niya. But after serious thinking about almost a year, he and his wife decided to stay. They decided to live their lives and raise their children in the land where God planted them. In 2004, our speaker decided to help the country through his writing, the best talent God gave him. He wrote his first book entitled 12 Little Things Every Filipino Can Do to Help Our Country, which, to his pleasant surprise, became a national bestseller. He also wrote the poem I Am Filipino, which is now being memorized by many elementary and high school students in many parts of the country. Kailangan din natin ito yata. Aside from Panada Makabayan, let's be reminded about it. That we are Filipino. Our speaker is a lawyer by profession. He finished law at the UP College of Law in Diliman and has taken a summer program at Harvard Law School in Cambridge, Massachusetts. In 2007, he took a leadership course. Agay Leadership Institute in Singapore, where he was chosen to give the valedictory address for all graduates from various countries. He was also a columnist of the Business World newspaper for 7 years. He was a former legal counsel of the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP, in the Philippines for 7 years. At present, he is a co-founder and partner of the Malcolm law firm in Ortigas, and he is also involved in the running two businesses. First, as a chairman and CEO of the family food business, Amo Yummy Ninjol Incorporated, and second, as president and CEO of OMP Global Holdings, a food distribution company. He is also the president and CEO of ISA, or the Institute of Solidarity of Asia, an organization which runs good governance and development programs with several LGUs and national agencies like the AFP, PNP, Philippine National Defense, Department of National Defense, the BOI, the Board of Investment, among others. Also, likewise, the former chairman of the Civil Service Commission's Multi-Sector Advisory Council. Our speaker is a best-selling author of patriotic books, a lawyer, a businessman, an NGO worker, and a builder of hope. He is a great believer in the Filipino and our potential as a people. He is married to a beautiful wife, and he's a father for four wonderful children. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Brother Attorney Alex Lacson.
Maraming salamat, Jace. Isang napakagandang pagpapakilala. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat, brothers and sisters. I was told that you need an entertainment after your lunch. So I'm here. This is a monthly gathering. And I would like to thank Brother Joseph for inviting me to be here with you today. And I hope that you will be able to pick up something from my presentation. Let me begin by it's a very simple. I was raised in a religious family in Tuan-Cala Negros Occidental, but my faith was always mababaw. Then it was much later that I believed that I needed to believe in something for me to have meaning, purpose, and direction in in this world. And so I believe in this. I believe that it is not an accident that I am here. That this is where that God wants me to be. And this is the land that He gave to me and to all of you. So when I really believed in the Word of God, and I also believe that there is no accident in this world. Therefore, He is the master planner, He is the master engineer of everything that we see in this world. If your Creator wanted you to be born in Canada, I'm sure you would be in Canada today. If your God wanted you to be born in Timbuktu, I'm sure you will be in Timbuktu today. But why is it that you are here? Right? So if we all believe that there is no accident in this world, that God is the master planner of everything, there must be a reason why God put us here. So I believed in it, and I internalized it. So I believe in this thing, no? And I also believe that in what the Bible said in this particular verse, that we are God's children, and what we shall be has not yet been shown as a people. And I'd like to believe that we are God's people, and this land is God's land. And so what is our reason for being here? Why is it that God put us here and not somewhere else? Right? So it's a very simple question, but it's also something, I think, very profound. Bakit dito ako nilagyan ng Diyos? What is His reason for putting me here? Why did He plant me here? Why not somewhere else? Would you be much happier if you were born as a French in France? Or you were born as a Japanese in Japan? Or as a Singaporean? But why here, in a very challenging country? Especially in our times today, under very challenging circumstances. So, let me just share with you, although it was mentioned very briefly. So I almost left the country in 1999 because this is part actually of the context. So I decided to stay, and I also decided to contribute something. And I wrote this book, the first book that I wrote. It's very simple, the idea of the book. It's really sharing small acts of love for everyone around you, for our neighbors, for our country. And it springs from the love of neighbor in the Bible. So every little thing in the book, there is a small love. When you follow traffic rule, there is a love of neighbor. When you being kind to your fellow man, there is a small act of love. When you become a good parent, there is a small act of love. So then I sinundan ko siya ng 12 little things our youth can do to help our country. And this is youth specific. I also wrote a follow-through, which is Global Philippines. This is for the Filipinos abroad, wherever they are. I'd like them to believe that they are part of the solution, they are part of the answer. They can always do something wherever they are. And I also wrote this one, 12 Wonderful Things about the Philippine, our country. What is good and beautiful about the Filipino in our country? Because I'd like to believe that our people especially need to believe that they are a great people. That there is something great and beautiful in them that was planted by the Lord. So I'd like us to see ourselves in a beautiful way. But of course, without closing our eyes on the things that are bad around us. So I also wrote this book for our youth, especially for the provinces. Principles that help me, and I simplified them, and I wrote them especially for the youth in the provinces. And I also wrote this one, I Am Filipino of Wine. This is just a modern version of the I Am a Filipino of Carlos P. Romulo, which was written in the context of the 1940s. But this one, I believe, would give a good view of himself as a child of God and in the country. So, what is my reason for writing this? It's my goal as a writer, to help in raising a great generation of Filipino citizens, especially Filipino youth. Anyway, so it has been 16 years since I made the decision to stay, from 1999 up to today, 2017. And I told myself at the time, what if 20 years later, this was in 1999, or 30 years later, the country would become worse than what it was? So it's been 16 years. I think we're all good judges of what's happening in the country. We're all intelligent and reasonable persons. But let me share with you what I see. Is that okay? So, our country today, what is our country today? Despite some progress in the past several years, these are the real situations. According to SWS last year, I don't know, no? 52 million or 51 million of people classify themselves as poor. This one was based on a 2014 figure posted by Philippine Statistics Authority in 2015. No, this was based on a 2015 figure posted by PSA in 2016, first quarter. So 12 million of our people are classified as suffering from extreme hunger. 12.1. 12.1 according to PSA. What is 12.1? 12 million Filipinos. That's 12% of our population. If you come to think of it, what's extreme hunger? Extreme. These are not people who are only eating once, isang kahig, isang tukat. Tatlong kahig na raw to isang tukat. To extreme hunger. And if you look at it in the context of our neighbors in Southeast Asia, Singapore is only around 5 million population. Hong Kong has around 7.5 million population. And yet in our country we have 12.1 million Filipinos who are suffering from extreme hunger. This was posted last year, February 26, front page of Philippine Daily Inquirer, reporting that yung data of 2015, 12 million living in extreme poverty. And 12.3 million Filipinos without jobs according to SWS. Although according to the Department of Labor, it's only around 3 million who are actively looking for jobs. But around 12.3 million without jobs. And of course, 10 million OFWs. Our society has become very corrupted. How corrupted? Watch the noontime shows. You would see how corrupted our society has become. You have 2-year-olds being raped, sometimes by their own fathers, by their own lolos. And many policemen have become the criminals themselves. If you read the newspapers, you will get this impression. Ang dami-daming policemen who are involved in criminality. And of course, the extrajudicial killings. And the present leadership, government policy, and state actions appear to have very low regard for human life, due process, and rule of law. I think we all see this now, and I don't have to belabor on this. But we need to ask this question, ano ang root causes? Why is our country like this? What are some of the root causes of our problems? I'd like to present some based on at least my personal view. I'd like to present with the two obvious ones that I presented to the Civil Service Commission Summit gathering recently. So the first one is, I'm using their name. The NGAs, many national government agencies do not deliver. I show to you. The Department of Atty Reform, for instance, in 2015. It was reported that the goal of the DAR was to distribute 198,631 hectares. They were the ones who set this goal for themselves. But look at the report of COA. 18% only of its goal was accomplished. That's according to COA. DNR, in 2010, it set a goal to plant 1.5 billion trees, and it was given 7 billion budget. The project was called National Greening Program. The accomplishment, according to COA, in April 2015, it was complete failure, and the money was gone. Bad traffic in Metro Manila since 1995. It's been reported since 1995, the bad traffic in the Philippines. To this day, we still have it, the bad traffic. So much worse, in fact, the bad traffic. Airports, one of the world's worst since 2004. The first time that it was reported that we have one of the world's worst airports is 2004. To this day, I think it's improving. Okay. And of course, the problem of poverty. Truth is that every administration declares a war against poverty. But we did not succeed. So many national government agencies do not deliver. Why? Many NGAs or national government agencies have weak in governance mechanisms. They have governance mechanisms that do not motivate or compel them to perform at their highest level to be able to achieve their own vision and goals for their organizations. Second reason, LGUs, many local government units, do not deliver also. I think we all know this. I presented this in the context of governance during the Civil Service Commission's summit. This is according, the figures come from Dr. Shirito Habito. Singapore has 0% rural poverty. Taiwan has 8% rural poverty. Malaysia has 8% rural poverty. Thailand has 14% rural poverty. Vietnam has 17%. But look at our beloved Philippines. 40% rural poverty. Why is the rural poverty in the Philippines high in the Philippines? This is one explanation, because very low or no culture of good governance among them. But also another explanation is that they are populated by political dynasties. Is there a correlation between political dynasties and rural poverty? Let me show it to you now. AIM has been making a study on this since the 2010 elections, 2013, and 2016 elections. I'm presenting only to you the 2010 and 2013 elections. After the two elections, 2010, 2014, ito yung study Dr. Ron Mendoza, Executive Director ng Policy Center. 70% of the members of Congress belong to political dynasties. And 80% of our governors and mayors belong to political dynasties. And they are, magkakamag-anak sila. And so if you look at it, they have captured Congress, around 70%. They have captured the leaderships in the LGUs, 80%. And of course, the barangays. This is just an estimate. There is no figure on that. So, and this is one of their findings. Poverty is highest in areas controlled by political dynasties. So you have our LGUs, 80%, being controlled by political dynasties, and yet rural poverty is very high. And yet, every year, our national government and many international organizations pour money into these LGUs. And yet, the rural poverty is very high. And of course, many of the poor in the rural areas, they would come in the metro cities. Okay. There are only around 170 political dynasties in the Philippines. Another study by Dr. Julay Tihanki of the De La Salle College of Arts and Letters, Dean. And there are only around 178 political dynasties in the country, but they have already captured our political system. Congress, 70%, it's now higher, and 80% of the LGU leaderships. And most of these political dynasties do not hire anymore the best experts and the best consultants. Why? They just want to go on with their pet projects where they have perfected their kickback mechanism. So every year you would see that a new road, 2 years pa lang, bubungkalin na naman, and they have to redo it because they have perfected the kickback system in that project. So if they spend 200 million this year, 3 years later they will spend another 200 million. 3 years later they will spend another 200 million. So much wastage of public funds. And mind you, many of these political dynasties are Christians, Catholics, and graduates of the top schools in the Philippines. So, is there a correlation between political dynasties and rural poverty? So I leave it up to you, according to that. Third root cause is something different. There is poverty in the heart among our leaders. What do you mean by poverty in the heart? Many of our leaders do not really lack love for our people. They do not have much love in their hearts for their fellow Filipinos. Many of our leaders do not see you as a brethren. Many of our businessmen in the country, especially the big ones, they see Philippines as a market for their products. They see the Filipinos as consumers of their products. Many of the political leaders in our country see our people as voters. Someone who could put them to office, not as brethren. So, whose failure is this that many of our leaders do not see God among our fellow Filipinos? Is it the church? Is it our fault? Is it the Christian leaders? That despite the Christianity in our country, many leaders still do not see God among their fellow Filipinos. The second root cause, I'd like to, this is actually the fourth, I'm sorry I was not able to change. The fourth is the common good. The common good is not highly emphasized in our schools. Let me cite an example. One of my sisters, she and her family live in Japan for almost 30 years. And I also saw this in the internet. During the first 3 years of formal schooling, so elementary, so up to grade 3, up to grade 4, they don't have exams, they have no homework for their students. And the focus is just on respect for others, discipline, love of country, national culture, the songs, their salawikain, their dances. And so early on, these people learn about respect for others. For instance, they teach this in various forms. For instance, inside the school, and there is an emergency like an earthquake or a tsunami, and only 3 of the 40 students have baon. You know how they teach their students? So what will you do with your baon? So instead of just eating it by yourself, they have to put it in the center so that everyone can share it. That specific, that they teach their kids how to respond during emergency crisis. During emergency situations also, yung pag-ida. No? So, and discipline for others is being taught in various forms, in various expressions. This is the one that I got in the internet. No? What about in the Philippine schools? What is our emphasis? What stress do we give to our education? There is too much emphasis on personal success for kids. And I know some parents who would almost bribe their teachers just for kids to get good grades in elementary. Who would very sip just for their kids to get good grades at school. Why? Because there's just too much focus on personal success. And you see that not only in the big schools, you see that also in the media. Too much emphasis on personal success and material success. What is the effect of too much emphasis on personal success and material success on our children? Nagiging individualistic attitude. So these kids, bahala kayo, I want to get good grades. Bahala kayo, I want to be number 1. Bahala kayo, I want to be there on the top. Can you imagine if these kids who graduate number 1 or top of their class, can you imagine if they would become senators and congressmen and chairman and CEO of our country? This is actually the fifth. I was not able to change it. That this kanya-kanya mentality among many of our leaders. This kanya-kanya mentality is an offshoot of that school. Too much focus on personal success. Where do you find this kanya-kanya mentality? Is there kanya-kanya mentality in business? Oh, there is a lot in the Philippines. Most of our oligarchs and business elite are only interested in making more money and building their business empires. The richest 1% of Filipinos owns and controls almost 50% of the country's wealth and resources, according to this report published in the Philippine Daily Inquirer. This was 2014. 1%. In 2014, the combined wealth of the 50 wealthiest families was already 26% of the total economy of the Philippines. 50 wealthiest families in the Philippines. And in 2014, the combined wealth of the 6 wealthiest families in the Philippines is already higher than the total national budget of our country. And this is according to Dr. Shell Habito. 60% of our country's GDP or economic growth in the past many years, they only benefit the companies of the richest 1% of the country. It is a situation in our country, you have big businesses. But if you look at their employees, more than 50% of their employees are being paid minimum wage. And yet, they generate billions of pesos every year. But if you look at their employees, they are paid small wages, low wages, minimum wages that can barely support decent living in our society. Why? Because I guess their primary interest is just really building more business empire. Some of them would build fantastic malls in abroad in other countries where they come from. But if you begin where they made their money, it all started here, Philippines. Okay. The gap between the rich and the poor in the Philippines is the highest in South Asia, according to this. And this was a World Bank report last year. Many Filipinos have jobs, they work very hard, but they remain poor. Why do you think? Why do you think? So, if you ask me, our economic realities in the Philippines are very unchristian. And our economic system is very unchristian. The economic system in Singapore is more Christian than ours. The economic system in Japan is more Christian than ours. The economic system in South Korea is more Christian than ours because they're able to provide more for their people than we are able to provide more for our own people. And yet we call ourselves Christians. What they do in Germany and in France, Germany, a few years ago, it began in Germany. A few years ago, France was the first country to acknowledge really and confront this wealth and income inequality. So anong ginawa sa France? They passed a law in their parliament that from now on, the salary of the lowest and the salary of the highest there must be a formula so that when they increase the salary of the highest paid executive in the country, kasama yung sa lowest. You know what was the formula that passed the parliament in France? That from now on, the salary of the highest executive in any company must not be more than 10 times the salary of the lowest paid in that company. So if the janitor in that company is only paid 10,000 pesos, what is the highest salary that can be paid to the CEO? 100,000. The idea being is that if they want to raise the salary of the highest paid CEO, they must also raise the salary of the lowest paid. And of course, maraming umalma, but it is now a law in France. Do you think it is something that can be done in the Philippines? I know some companies that the CEO would receive 7 million, 10 million a month. And the lowest paid employee in the company is just receiving 15,000 a month. Is this something that can be done in the Philippines? I don't know. It would take a different president with a different mindset that can make it happen. Okay. Kanya-kanya mentality politics. Is there kanya-kanya politics in politics 50s? Wala ka pong marinig where the mayor was the husband and the wife was the was the vice mayor, or the son or the child was the vice mayor. But today, in our time, you have situations like the congressman is the father, the wife is the mayor, and the vice mayor is the son or the child. Pumunta ka lang sa Pampanga, governor, vice governor, mother and son. Pumunta ka sa Isabela, ang dami. Pumunta ka sa Makati, buong pamilya. So this is a worsening situation in our problem. So, are you still okay? For me, the social cancer in the Philippine society, si Jose Rizal spoke of social cancer during his time. What was the cause of that social cancer? Was it the Spaniards? But the Spaniards left already. How come the social cancer remained with us? Who are now causing that social cancer in Philippine society? Who are now causing that social cancer in Philippine society? The ones that destroy our society. The fabric, the life, the goodness of our society. If you ask me, these are three warped areas of the social cancer. One, there is poverty in the hearts of our leaders. They do not see God in their fellow men. They do not see you as a brethren. Second, there is really low emphasis for common good in our education, in our society. That's why we keep on raising kids who are bright and yet very low in social conscience. They become successful anywhere. Pound per pound, ang galing ng Pilipino. But we are bad as a group. Third, all of that reflects kanya-kanya mentality. Bahala kayo, I'll just take care of my family. Bahala ka, just take care of my business. Bahala ka, just take care of my own self. So, that's why we have that. Naiiwanan. So, how can we help in changing the story of the Filipino? How do we make our country great and beautiful in the eyes of the Lord? So, how can we Christians, citizens, serve God by serving our country? What I will give you is just something I am sure you know already. There is nothing new in what I will say. It's just maybe a reminder or reiteration. So let me just cite 5. Be a servant leader and a good Filipino at home. This is something that we all know. Let me go through each one, hopefully briefly. Be a servant leader and a good Filipino at home. So it's actually a difficult challenge to be a servant leader at home. To be a servant leader to your spouse, to be a servant to your kids, to a servant to your own servants. So, but I'll speak about servant leadership at home, especially, for instance, sa mga sambahay. There are areas where we can show servant leadership. Do we take care of our kasambahay in terms of their salaries, benefits, emergencies? How we treat them in front of others? This is something very basic, and this is something at home. So we can do small acts of love for others, for our country. Pasensya na po kayo, I will suggest again my book, just to give you some ideas, but there are so many ideas out there. And small acts of love for our neighbor. And if you have children, if you want to give a gift to your nephews, nieces, if there are small kids that want to support, you may also think of this as the National Bookstore. Sorry about that. It's a shameful life. But if you have relatives, friends abroad, if you want them to be part in helping building our country, you may just think of it. It's only 150 against the National Bookstore. Shameful plugging. But I have a favorite in this book. No? Let me just mention one favorite, which is about a scholar. I'm saying this because I'm a product of scholarship practically most of my life. I was in high school, I was in college, practically every step of the way except yung sa elementary when I studied in the public school near our place in Negros Occidental. But the idea of adopting a scholar is, it's like adopting a complete stranger, an angel, and giving that angel, complete stranger, a good chance to succeed in life. And if you're able to help that scholar, you are changing the life not only of that person, but including the children of that person, including the great-grandchildren of that person, including the great-great-grandchildren of that person. And it goes eternally for as long as that person will have descendants. So you're changing not the life of only one person, you're changing a line of I don't know, people, not descendants. This is according to them, and this was actually in 2015. For every 100 grade 1 students, only 51 will finish high school. 14 will finish college. Look at it. Ang nagsisimula si grade 1, 100. Ang makatapos sa high school, 51% na. Eventually, graduate sa college, 14 na. You multiply, assuming there's 1 million that enter grade 1. By the end of college, 4-year course, you have 7 million plus who are out of school. That's a reality in our country today. So, the good news is that there are 22 million families in our country. So if each one, those who can afford, and just adopt one, kahit na isa lang per family, it will already make a difference in our country. So, I used to be a member of World Vision, and I sat in the board for so many years. I only took a leave because I got tired of sitting in the board last year. I took a leave last year, and we have this formula. You can adopt a scholar, 600 pesos a month. Kahit na mag-commit ka lang for 1 year, then you stop. But if you want to see the child really graduate, and just keep on sending 600 pesos every month. Deny yourself one Starbucks, one Jollibee, you will have this 600 every month. And you'll end up healthier. So, let me just say this: whoever welcomes a child in my name welcomes not only me, but also the one who sent me. So he was Peter the poor lends to the Lord, and God will pay back what a man has given to the poor. So it's not the poor that will pay you, it's actually the 12 little things. Second, educate your family and relatives about political dynasties. Just a few things to, political dynasties are a big obstacle to our country's progress. That's my opinion, based on the studies of AIM. Political dynasties are obstacle to inclusive growth. Look at the provinces where the dynasties are well entrenched. Their houses are big, their cars are brand new, they're powerful, they have great lives, but the people around them, look at it. Politics is a big business for them. So if you ask me, political dynasties are a big part of our problem. So third, help elect good leaders for our country during elections. So I became part of this PNTL, Philippine Movement for Transformational Leadership. It's a coalition of various Catholic and Christian organizations. We got together for the 2016 elections. And the idea is we came up with a guide, a gabay, composed of 20 very specific questions on how to vote intelligently and righteously for servant leaders. So we tried to market this during the 2016 elections, but sobrang lakas ng personality ng candidate. But if you want to visit, you can visit it there, gabaycristo.com. You'll be able to see the content of that gabay and what we try to do. And the fourth suggestion is speak up, demand for a better government, because we all pay taxes and we are citizens. I always say that citizens play a crucial role in building a better government for all of us. And especially the issue of the extrajudicial killings. There are so many issues right now in our society, but I think this is one issue that we need to speak up against. Because more than 6 million deaths so far, mostly of them are really very poor. People who cannot fight for themselves. People who are too poor to even fight for themselves. People who have very small voices in our society. And join a group or cause that helps build your dream Philippines. So whatever that group is, that helps build your idea of a Dream Philippines, join a group. And somewhere along there, we will converge, we will meet. And so I believe in this, a country will only be as great and beautiful as its people. And our country needs a great generation of Filipinos. Filipinos who believe that love, fairness, and justice are better tools in building a better society. And so let me end with this. In a gentle way, we can change the world. I continue to believe that love, fairness, justice are better tools in building a better society. God bless all of you. I hope you learned something from my talk.
Thank you, Sir Alex. If you have questions, we still have a few minutes to do that, 5 minutes to be exact. Baka meron questions, reactions, or any reflections out of the discussion with Sir Alex. Anyone? Okay. There's none. Sir Alex, you still have your books available sa National Bookstore, all of them. So, kung meron din yung books na was with you, nadala nyo, you can have it signed kay Sir Alex na rin. And we'll be announcing the next Lunch and Learn series in the next Wednesday Mass, no? Or the next Mass, no? And with that, Sir Alex would like to thank you for being with us, for taking your wisdom to us and reminding us how important it is to first love ourselves, love our country, and develop also the next generations. Thank you for that, and God bless you. Thank you, everyone.